All right, so I guess the topic of this one's going to be about detailed geometry analysis and being able to look at a small portion of a thing and to be able to grok out the rest of it. So yeah, we've got ourselves a 3D program called Wings 3D. I've got a cube showing, and if we look at just one of these faces, in fact, I'm going to go switch this thing into edge mode. You can see that we've just got two angles showing. Well, we've got one angle showing because I've got two adjacent edges showing up. And I'm just going to turn this box around, and you're going to look at that angle and realize a bunch of things. So if I look at this face like straight on, we get a right angle. We get like this 90-degree angle. And if I keep the camera so that it's like right on the edge here, it stays as a right angle. As long as I'm staring straight on that edge, right? As long as I'm not looking at it like this, if I'm keeping right with the plane, it stays as a 90-degree angle. But you can tell that this edge here is getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. So that's something to know. Now, if I turn this thing, it's still 90 degrees. Now I'm going to start turning it this way. You'll see that the angle is now getting wider than 90 degrees, and it gets wider and wider as we wind up viewing it like this. And also, if I turn this thing around, the same thing happens. It gets wider and wider and wider and wider like that. But if we turn this thing again, so that now it's out the side, and I said to turn it like this, you'll see, oh, look, it starts to get less than 90 degrees, right? Here, it's like perfectly 90 degrees. And then as I turn it, it becomes tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter, like that. So now, here's another thing. If I start turning this thing, look at the length of the arms of this angle, right? If I turn it like this, one of them gets shorter. It gets shorter as we're looking more and more along the line, while the other one appears to be getting longer. And then same thing, if I turn it this way, this one appears to be getting shorter. And you can also tell this is the lower line, right? Like if we look at this, there's a lower line, there's an upper line, right? So if I turn it, you can see that the lower line's getting shorter, whereas if I turn it this way, the upper line gets shorter. So this is just, analysis. This is being able to just look at a cube, look at a single line, and being able to analyze what's going on. So let's take a third adjacent edge, and then we can see some more things going on, right? Because if I look at this one, oh, look, we've got like this 90-degree angle here. And if I turn it like this so that we're staring along the plane, you can see that the angle is getting wider and wider and wider and wider. And then this dividing line here, we can see that if I'm staring right along that edge at a 45-degree view, it makes an equal split. But if I start turning it this way, you'll see that this split changes, right? We can see that there's a wide angle here. There's kind of a more of a 90-degree angle here, right? We're seeing these two wide angles, and you can see just based on the angles that are changing, right? Just look at all those changing angles as we look around at this box. So this is just something that's really important. And another thing is that if all three lines are on the outside like this, it means that this corner is sitting in the center of the silhouette. The moment I turn this thing and it does this, right? It goes from this to a flat line, and then it goes like this. We're now looking up at it. We're crossing a horizon. There's a horizon here. We're just going on it. We're dipping under the horizon, and now this corner is now an exterior corner. The actual corner is now, the interior corner is down here. All right, so if I click that vertex and switch this to edge mode, you see that's the internal. If I turn it beyond the horizon, it becomes an external corner. And if you see three lines, you're seeing, right, like these three lines. The reason there's three lines is because one of those lines is connected to the internal corner. But if I grab these two edges, you can see these are the outermost corners, and there's no third line unless I turn it until it reaches this point, until we reach the horizon, until we cross over the horizon. Now it becomes an internal corner. Then we can see all three connected pieces. So if we apply this to drawing, if you know this information, then one thing you can do to practice this sort of knowledge is by taking two lines and looking at it like this. We see two lines, one's short, the other one's long. We have ourselves a 90-degree angle. What does this tell us? Well, since that one's a short line, that means that I know that that is a long distance angle. This one is closer. And since this is 90 degrees, we're probably viewing this right on the horizon, and this is the rest of the cube. So by looking at any line, so let's say this is the short line, this is the long line, right? Just knowing that, in fact, I'm going to make this a tighter line, right? Knowing that, you should be able to find out where's the hidden corner, use that to complete that quadrilateral, and then be able to finish the rest of the box. So you should be able to just give yourself random lines, two lines which are joined at an adjacent corner, which share, so they share that point, and then be able to find out where the hidden point is. Use that to find out where the hidden point is, and then complete the box. So this is a really useful skill to have. All right. Here, let me show you another program. We'll bring up where is it? Marmoset Hexels. Let's put this thing into Trixels mode. Where's my mouse? Oh, there it is. Get a mouse pad for that. Okay. And where's my mouse again? My mouse is somewhere on the desktop. Oh, here we are. Okay. So yeah, let's put this thing into Trixels mode and make sure that it's capturing the right display. Okay, good. Yes, it is. And so, yeah, this thing has a thing called outline mode. And let me just put this into just get a white line. Let's make a really, really wide line. So maybe 40. So here's another exercise. And that would be, we have a Trixel grid. And I'm going to try and create arbitrary forms, arbitrary rectangular forms. But in this case, I'm going to use the bare minimum lines. So I'm only going to be using outer lines, and the only time I ever have an internal line is, whoops, looks like that one was a mistake, but that's okay. I can just correct that. All right, the only time I'm going to have an internal line is if we have an actual overlap. So if we do something like, say, here, let's get an internal line going. So this is a mental exercise. The mental exercise because it's like I'm trying to stress what it is that my brain's able to handle. So let's say we have something like this, but then we have another object like that. Right? So this is actually a viable shape right here. If I use a thinner line, all right, so I'm going to draw all the hidden lines, all the other internal edge lines that you normally would have seen, right? That's what you would have seen. And if I draw this out, right, then theoretically what you'd be seeing is let's take this thing and rotate it a bit, right? So I'm going to draw a few extra lines, right? You're going to get something kind of like this, right? So there's this one little cube that sticks out, and maybe it's 4 units sticking out another way. So that's 1 unit here. So 4 units, 2, 3, 4. Well, actually, it's going to be 5 units total. And then it looks like it's another 4 units going another way. So 1, 2, 3, and then another 4th unit here. Right? So if you want to simplify your drawing, though, then you have to be able to do something kind of like this. You can say that goes there, this goes over here, and you can see how I'm using dots. I'm using dots as a notation marker, right? It means that I don't have to draw the whole line. And the nice thing about using the dots as a notation marker is it doesn't leave a whole lot of crap all over the page. Where this is really useful is when if you're drawing with a pen. So if you're going to draw with a pen, then you don't get you don't get any undos and any erasing. I'm working digitally, so I do get it. But in this case, I'm drawing these bare minimum information, but this is enough information to let you know that this is the same object as this. It's just that there's a lot less crap on the screen. It's less cluttered. And if I want to draw hands and heads and people's, actually, like a figure, if I'm going to draw a figure, then one way to look at the figure is I can draw a little voodoo doll. So a little voodoo doll might look something kind of like this. He'll have one unit for his head, and then I'll have another unit for his torso, then another unit here for an arm. All right, so I like to use a little simple cross, another one like that, and then this is the lower body, right? And being able to draw this at different angles. In this case, I'm going to start changing up the proportions of the whole thing. I can pull that in a bit. And you can use this to figure out when you're doing your figure drawing. I draw with this very reduced geometry set. So I don't have to draw as many lines. My drawings aren't as complex. Right now, there would be an edge line here if we were to turn this back into boxes. Right, there's the box line. These are all the box lines that you don't have to draw. Right, but you can see how the boxing is occurring, how this is all boxing off. Right, and so if you learn how to eliminate lines, if you learn how to draw, this way where you're just eliminating lines, this is something you're going to need to practice. Right, you can try. Again, I can work out, let's say, something like this. I'm going to try and draw an extruded box, like a spring. I'm going to just make that go around. This is going to go this way. That goes this way. And I'm just drawing this coil. It goes around, and then it disappears behind there. But then we see this part here. Right? And again, this kind of thing you can box off the edges as a, as your check, as a way to check it. Right, you can see that. So yeah, draw intricate shapes. Draw, let's say, a link. Let's draw two linked circles, like a chain link, a single chain link with a box-like cross section. So this one is going up, and you'll notice how I use little pieces because it's easier to control the pieces, the smaller pieces. Right, so that goes around. This one here, I suppose I'll see a bit of the interior line going in there. Right, I can keep this split into quadrilaterals. Right, so this is just, again, this is raw void magic control. Right, so I've just drawn two objects which have been linked together. And again, it's okay if it's not, perfectly circular, but it's got to feel, get that 3D feeling, get that feeling of the objects interlocking, and work on intricacy of contact and being able to get those things to really mesh together And that's a really valuable skill to have, right? It's a good sculptural skill. And you know, you don't have to draw people, you can draw firearms. And if you look at firearms, they'll have let's find like let's find some modern rifles. Right, and so here, this thing will have all kinds of neat little shapes all over it. I'm just gonna grab that image, have it up there. Okay, so if we just take one of these details, just one of these details, like this this Picatinny rail on the side. So I'm gonna draw it from a 3/4 perspective, and I'm gonna try and do it minimalistically. So I'm gonna draw. There's that end. Now I have to drop down this bit here. Then I have to have an angle here. That goes back there. I'm trying to encapsulate the whole thing. How many pieces are there? There are three raised sections, and there's also screw holes for the drop. So maybe what I'll do is I'll figure out this line and that line there. So we'll just carve here. We'll carve here. And then for the circles, I won't draw circles. What I'll do is I'll use hexagons, because hexagons are easier for me to control. So this is a stepping stone, right? It's a useful, this just makes the circle more controlled. The shape is there we are. And then I can draw the hexagonal screw head in there. Now I can fit there. So this is some hard surface inorganic modeling. And then, all right, so let's look at this. This drops down a bit, and yeah, you know, the proportion might be a little different. And we have 4 gaps total. So what I'll do is I'll just draw the gaps like that, and then I'll raise that one up. I'll raise this one up and raise this one up. That one's already raised. And then on the other side, I think, let's see. That has to go up. That has to go that way. So I need to have 3 raised posts. So this will be the first raised post. This is the second. This is the third raised post. Then connect that one to there. Connect this one here. Connect this one here. Then drop the lines down. Drop, 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 drop. And that's all that you need to draw. Like, it's, again, this is the minimalistic way of drawing. This is all you need for people to understand what they're seeing. Now, of course, if I really want to get detailed, then I can draw that other inner edge, but it starts to get harder to understand. But what we can do is we can go in here and we can draw hatching. So I'm not going to complete the line, but what I will do is I'll hatch. And what this does is maybe I'll draw, again, some hatching here. And the hatching all follows the geometry. Like that, and that one there, and hatch down. And so again, now we look at this little piece here and we compare it. Right, we can see, how about this? I can take this bit here, let's hatch down here, go and make another facet here. Right. That's it. That's all I need. That's all that's necessary. So it's like, again, let's take another piece like this this front sight. So let's see, what do I see? Okay, let's get this from here to here. And let me just get my my display to stay up, that way I can make sure that it's switching properly. Okay, yeah, so there's this little doodad here. We got there's a distance that goes from here to here, so. And and the thing is, I'm going to be drawing this from an isometric perspective. I don't know what's on the top of this thing, so I can't really say what's here. What I do know, though, is I can see there's a circular cutout and a notch that little thing fits into. It's like a spring-loaded notch. So I'm going to do a semicircle cut, draw the notch, and I guess that's where it ends. That's where the plastic ends. And then on the other piece, so I'm going to pull that in a bit. Oh yeah, I'm drawing guns. Demonetized. Okay, so let's see. That's okay. I've never monetized anything on YouTube ever. I don't even have that option. There we are. Okay. And then I'm going to just cut across. So another thing is that sometimes you have to take your hand off of the canvas or take your hand off of the screen to see what the next move is going to be. But I can see that there's like this little another piece of plastic in here and a hollow there. So I need to figure out how high that hollow is. Like everybody, it's like all of the channels that I like to watch on YouTube, they're all getting demonetized, they're all getting deplatformed, and it's just getting extremely stupid. Oh, people are following me on YouTube. How nice. I posted my Twitch information and people are joining. Most of the time it's boring programming, but you know, Wednesdays I have art streams and I draw thick chicks. Okay, so there we are. And then we have, whoops, sorry, that was the autosave kicking in. So again, you see how I'm using the dots to mark out cutouts, right? And then, so this is just like placing vertexes in a 3D program, right? You just use the dots to mark out your cutouts and you just take the job in little pieces. It's really, here we are. Let's, again, mark another cutout here. That goes there. And the brush that I'm using, there's no pressure sensing on it. There's no way to vary the diameter of the brush. It's always the same diameter of the brush. So even if I draw really lightly as well, it's always going to be like a perfect 100% opacity. So, you know, just this is nice because you don't have to feel like you have to push really hard to get a good brush stroke. And very often I see people using all these brushes with all this pressure sensitivity and they're not controlling the pressure very well and the thing looks mashy and nasty. So yeah, don't. Oh, okay, right. So now that I've got that, you can see that this carves up and goes up and over like that. So I guess I'm gonna, I'll do a little cutout piece like this. I think it needs to come down here. I need a bit more carving up here, so it needs to be a little bit more rounded out. And it looks like this piece is kind of pinching, right? So it carves down and it pinches that piece right there. We'll have a little dot in there. And okay, so it looks like I have to erase this bit here. And I drew it longer than it had to be. So then I can bring that down so we can now see, right, there's that little piece there. And now this piece here, I'm just going to draw it flat. I'm just going to flatten it out. Maybe I'll draw like a little kind of I don't know, I'm making it up. And then here, I'm going to draw this screw. So I need to erase away this little bit here. I'm going to draw the cylinder. So I need to draw the other cylindrical limit here and then have the slot cut out here. So this is great, right? Like this is all just hard surface modeling of, you know, abstract pieces that aren't necessarily arms or legs or hands. And the thing is that people will tend to have their own idea of what a hand looks like, right? Like people have mental ideas of symbols and whatnot. But if you try to draw some CNC designed, SolidWorks designed piece of plastic, you know, man-made piece of plastic, which is meant to fulfill a certain purpose, that is going to break through that mental symbology that's in your head, and it's going to get you to actually, you're going to be forced to analyze what it is that you're looking at. And then let's hatch these. Yeah, let's hatch this bit here as well. Right? Pretty good, I'd say, you know, if I do say so myself. We got like a little notch cut here. Oh, because that's what keeps it when you flip it into the down position. And I also forgot that there's a small hinge pin in here. And so I need to cut out the other hinge piece right here. I'm going to erase that away. And that, let's see, that recession's actually pretty deep. There we go. And then I can draw the little inner piece right there. Right? No rulers. No, you don't need a ruler. I didn't use any line stabilization. Didn't use any brush pressure settings. You know, nothing fancy. Nothing fancy. And not bad, right? So these are good things to practice because it forces you to observe. You have to know what you're looking at. And it's just, you're going to go through life as, like, your art career is going to be going through life looking at things that you don't understand, and you have to be able to observe, analyze, and break it down. And look at how I changed the perspective on it. Right? This is more of a side perspective. This is more of an isometric. I had to make up information, and I had to synthesize and reconstruct that little gun sight in a different angle, in a different perspective. So this is the litmus test, right? Is that there are people out there who will just draw, and they're essentially photocopiers of the things they see, and that's not useful. That's not useful. It's not like being able to analyze something and then resynthesize that information. And that's how you really know what it is you're looking at.